Hi there everybody, my name is Kate and welcome to my channel, Trenergy Awakens Naturally. We're on the road again. You know, the downloads have been almost non-stop for several days now without a whole lot of breaks. So rather than resist it and say I don't feel like it, I'm on, you know, trip number however many it is. I think this might be the third or fourth time I'm headed out to Canyon City, Colorado, which brings up a lot of very distorted, twisted, and weird energy, and I'm sure that's why I go there, is because there's a whole lot of distorted, weird, and twisted energy that's floating around, not just in the ethers, man, that stuff's all over the place. However, what I want to talk to you about today is the fact that there is a lot of distorted energy out there, and there's a lot of very convoluted stuff, and there's a lot of very nasty, I mean dark stuff that's going on. We don't have to look far to catch the news and see that darkness on every level is just oozing out everywhere. It's screaming, it's slamming bodies, it's killing people, it's, you know, being cruel, absolutely cruel, with mouth, with hands, with feet, with everything that it's got. Because as people ascend, Hondo's super nervous today. I don't know what his problem is. He's not hugely fond of the car anyway, and I had to drag his butt into the car today because I wasn't going to let him take another day off. But anyway, as people are ascending in their consciousness or even waking up, man, it's the people that do not want to play along with that program and that new paradigm understanding that are just having too much fun in their whatever it is, their dark stuff. They really are the disparaging, or the disparate difference between where people are standing in light and those that are not. Holy cow, the gap gets wider and wider and wider, and the chasm greater and greater and greater. And the people that are on the bottom side of that are really, really mad, and they're stepping up their game. So what I want to specifically address about that today is when we are a generational curse breaker, a truth teller, we're someone in a dynamic, particularly family is what I'm most relating this to, because that's what I can relate it to. When we are born into a situation with a family, we don't know necessarily, unless we're born into a spiritual family or one that already is talking about Akashic records and soul contracts and, you know, some pretty new age, new thought hipster stuff, or magic or something like that. We can go years, we can go decades, we can go our whole lives and have no idea that we've been bound to a contract and been miserable and be in some repetitive life cycle thing where we're coming back time after time after time after time. And my personal downloads about this is that we have some folks that are here walking the earth at the moment, you know, and some that have come before in the waves that Dolores Cannon talked about. It's very similar, and maybe the same thing, I don't know, I haven't studied Dolores Cannon enough to know, but there are people who are definitely understanding themselves that those Akashic records do not apply in the same way. They're much like being a paramedic, that I don't have all the information on what a person has been going through, what their whole, you know, story is. I don't need it. I just need, when I show up on a scene as a paramedic, I show up on a scene and it doesn't matter to me how long the heart history is, what the, you know, what the actual surgeries and all of that are, except for relevant information for that situation right then. It's not pertinent, relevant, or necessary for me as that medic to intervene and help in an emergency situation. I don't need all the backstory, and whatever backstory that I would have if I did get it might come over the radio with, yeah, that's a, you know, cardiac patient, 25 years, you know, extensive quadruple bypass, blah blah blah, on multiple meds, and, you know, experiencing chest pain, past history of. We might get all that, we might, or we might find it out when we get on the scene. Either way, there's limited information that's necessary, and it becomes burdensome and gets in the way when someone wants to stop and tell me about grandpa's history, and, well, he had back in blah blah blah, and, you know, no, you're wasting my time because I have an intervention to commit to and do, and you're wasting my time. You know, not to be rude, but, you know, Mrs. Non-Heart Attack, you got to step aside. which that turns into, if you take that into the idea of living as a kind of energetic paramedic that's here on the earth, not necessarily bound to those Akashic records in the same way, bound in that I need enough of that information about that contract, that soul contract, and what kind of emergency energetic crisis this timeline is in, this person is in, this contractual agreement is in, this family contract is in, whatever level of that it is. And believe me, not all calls are emergencies, you know, at the same level as a paramedic. So I look at it the same way as the energetic paramedic, that it's the same kind of thing. I'm not intervening or helping in a true, you know, emergency situation with people always at the same level, you know. However, the most severe contract type situation in my own world was very much in crisis point, and still is, unfortunately, because I can hear it, smell it, see it, taste it. It's like, okay, I got it, then let me make this video and see if I can clarify some stuff for other people who may be experiencing this and wondering, you know, where do I fit into this and how do I deal with this? When we come in and we're really acting as an intervention, we do not necessarily have history on earth with people that we are here to help as light workers, star seeds, generational curse breakers, however you identify, I could care less. I don't like to label myself out because it gets too easy to say, well, I thought you said you were whatever. I'm a human being and this is what I'm saying and this is what I'm doing in this particular moment, you know, to intervene on the behalf of everyone for the good of the planet, not just the good of me. You know, when I'm acting as a paramedic, man, I'm not there to intervene on my behalf unless I'm real stuck in my ego and just, you know, looking to save lives and stuff for that reason. And I'm not. I'm looking to actually help humanity and help individual people any way that I can. We're in construction area, so we're going to get bumpy probably, and I'll try to stay in my lane. Hella hard, stay in your lane. Always, and I just saw Hawk go by, thank you. So at any rate, when I come into a situation, if I already know, and it doesn't matter to me what my label is, if I understand that that situation with my family or that particular relationship that's so contentious, so painful, so it shouldn't be that way, what the hell, when it's one of those, and particularly for me personally, it was family, that there were highly contentious relationships always that were problematic, that left me feeling, you know, weird, and they were already very disconnected, and my family did not stay together at all. It didn't stay together at all. In terms of people just died. They literally died, and they fell off and fell away. You know, it was a very small unit anyway. However, I always felt like there was just this dark, oppressive, very heavy energy, and I didn't understand it in that way, that it was just very dark and difficult to be in people's homes and stuff, that, ugh, you know. And when I had a stepdad, I felt zero connection to his family, anything he was about. I didn't care if those grandparents liked me or not. You know, it wasn't really a big deal. And they weren't putting out any vibes that they wanted to have a connection, but even if they did, I didn't feel comfortable around them. And my stepdad, I did not stay in my lane. I didn't necessarily fall into the whole daddy thing of wanting daddy's approval. What I wanted was daddy not to be violent. That's what I really wanted was, and I knew straight up, you're not my daddy, you're the substitute of whatever, you know, whatever that was. I wasn't part of that voting system, you know, at all, and I wasn't part of the voting system that brought you in. I just really would appreciate it if you weren't mean, hateful, awful, and violent. That's what I really would appreciate. And, you know, you liking me, loving me, and playing daddy with me, I never had that expectation. So it really was clear to me that that's not the game we're playing. I just really would appreciate it if this fool would back up, you know, and give a child some space to deal with this. So things were making a lot of sense, and yet at the same time, I was a child, so it wasn't going to make sense through the child understanding and that immaturity fully. However, all the weird attachment stuff really wasn't happening the way that one would predict that it would. And so that left me with other matriarchal figures in my family. That's all that was left. really, truly, that I'm just trying to lean right up into me because he's nervous and he can't do that. I don't like it, and it just bugs me. And it's dangerous because he'll put his head up in my lap and then be sitting right with me if I'm not careful. But matriarchal figures were difficult because I didn't understand that we have a very toxic dynamic going on here, that I feel bound to you in weird ways that I don't feel like I can leave, but I want to. And I feel guilt trip and shamed, that I want to go, and yet, I don't understand this. And I was absolutely always a very independent child. I was at home very little. If I could find some other place that was safer to be, I went there, and created that stuff for myself because I didn't like being where I was. The sibling that I have we're not connected. We never were, and that's part of that whole thing of why is this the way that this is? Well, it never quite made sense. I did feel quite obligated as a sister, and I wanted to love people. I did. I really wanted to love and have a connection with them, but I was very clear that we don't have that connection. It doesn't matter what I want. We don't have that connection. And the same with my own mother. We never really had a bond. We never really had any major attachment. We never really had that soft and gentle, safe place to fall stuff out of all kinds of reasons. But I didn't understand until I was able to break away from that entirely. 5 years ago, I started going through a divorce, and it blew my mind because all of a sudden these relationships just exploded into the most horrible behavior that I could ever imagine anyone in a family doing to another family member, but much less, matriarchal figure, patriarchal figure. It didn't matter. Everybody on the playing field lost their beans, including me for a while. But I found him quickly because when I, really had a very clarifying moment that defined everything for me, there were a couple of them, but that very first one, it was like God opened up a huge window and said, here you go, jump through, and we'll explain the rest to you when you get to the other side of that. And that's truly what happened. Is I asked one question and it changed my life in a therapist's office, that I walked out and said, I'm divorced and I don't do that anymore, and that's over. It changed my life, and I never saw anything another way except the way forward was not anything having to do with that, and I never looked back. And not to be hateful, I'm not looking to be cruel, I'm looking to explain things in a way that might help somebody else get to their school and understand themselves as not being a beast or a horrible individual. Because what I'm telling you and what I mean to say is that sometimes when we come in and we're that energetic paramedic type thing, I don't go to the hospital and stay with people. I don't hold their hand through their emergency. I don't, know their whole history. I don't meet their entire family. And honestly, I really don't care. I care in that moment. I'm very committed in that moment, and I truly want to help, and I offer my help, and I do give that help. However, I'm done. When the call's over, I write up my run report, and that's the end of that. I call in service and go on to the next one. And I don't generally give it another thought unless there's been something, weird or traumatic about it, or it's a frequent flyer that I see a lot. I might think about it again, but rarely. I can't say that I remember any particular call at all, except for a very few that I have had in the past. So, it's a clean relationship where I come in clean as I didn't bring my baggage in with me. I helped you, or I didn't, whatever your opinion is of that, saving, whatever, whatever the assessment is on the other side. I did my job. And then when I was done, I closed out that call and went on to a different call, another call. And that's the way it is. And so when I kind of got that wide open window view of, oh, I've been misunderstanding this whole thing, I got to go. I went through and I never looked back exactly, except I kept looking back to go, but this is family, but, and yet my heart kept telling me, nah, you don't want any piece of that, girl. You need to keep moving. You need to keep moving, because the alliance is all actually, and again, not to tell my personal business to be mean or cruel, I just want to make sure that if people can understand it through their own similar experience or through something that, can resonate, that's really what I'm trying to do here, is not call out people, and be hateful or something. It's just use it as an educational tool, because I had to, and if I can learn from it, then hopefully somebody else can learn from it too. But when my ex-husband bailed out and left, That was the hallmark question, was, do you even want to do this anymore? And there was, hesitation in his eyes, and that's when that window opened up, and I really did know a lot of other stuff was happening already, that was letting me know, and I was not awake fully back then, not even close, but I knew there was something building up and something big was going to be happening. I had no idea what it was, and zero clue. I just knew something. Seems like for months it had been doing that, all of 2018 actually, and in 2017 I knew 2018 going to be a big game changer of a year. I had no idea what that meant. I just knew. I kept hearing that, and didn't even know where I was hearing it from or anything like that. So anyhow, when that question came and I saw I went, oh, I see through the window that this is not what I thought it was. It never has been. I've been wrong. I've been mistaken. Gotta go. Boop. And so I went on, and my family, the only two people still alive in my family, where my mother and my sister are, as far as I know, that those two people decided to take the whole issue and take my ex-husband's side, and celebrate Christmas just a few days later. And, I'm sitting there thinking, what just happened here? Who takes the bro instead of the hoe? The mister instead of the sister? Who does that? I don't understand that, and I was so brokenhearted about it. Absolutely brokenhearted about it. I did not look back to ever wonder whether I'd made a mistake with, yeah, I'm out, I'm not asking for you, do you want to try to, none of that with my ex-husband, but I was hella confused for a little while about my own mother and my own sister, and trying to figure out, what is that? Because that's not something that I would do. That's the first thing, is get a clue. You're not the same people. And when I was able to finally pull away from it entirely and just said, yeah, the disloyalty is too much, and, different actions that have been taken that have been just really cruel. It went into some deep, dark, dirty places. That's where I learned just how dark and nasty my family of origin human beings were, and the dark work that they were associated with, whether they knew it or not. They had attachments all day to dark shit that it was nasty, and why I always had that just foreboding feeling at every single family member's house. Fortunately, there weren't that many, and we're not even talking about stepdad, we're talking about my blood family, not energetic family of origin, but my blood family of origin. Every single house had a very, just stank-ass feeling to it, and it was nasty, and I felt uncomfortable. But I didn't understand that discomfort was being blamed on me, and that's where the child didn't understand that, oh, I guess it is me, and I didn't take it on exactly as in 100% of, sorry dude, you gotta move, as 100% me. It was a strange dichotomy, because it didn't screw me up that much that it just absolutely waylaid me as a child, but it sure did by the time I got to be grown and got into a relationship, and got married and started having children of my own. I absolutely piled into it must be me, because absolutely nothing was making sense at that point. At least whenever I was on my own as a child and I went to school and other places, things made sense when I was no longer in those environments. But I just recreated the same environment and was doing that, and so there was no one to call, there was nowhere to go, there was nowhere that made any sense at all to me. And so then I did absolutely start assuming a lot of guilt and shame for the bad parenting that I was providing, the bad family membering that I was providing, the bad partnering that I wasn't giving by the time my second child was born. And then medications got involved, and mental health diagnoses that were way hella wrong and incorrect and just bad. I'm autistic, not bipolar. They're nowhere near the effing same, and absolutely just screwed things up royally. However, what the difference was, though, in understanding immediately with that window opportunity was, oh, I remembered my childhood more, that, oh, I remember this is just facade. I've been playing a game, and there is no real connection with these figures, these important roles in my life. There is no real connection, and there never has been. And I feel the guilt and the shame that's put upon me when I try to separate from it. However, I got to keep working through that and just know that, nope, no matter what it looks like, I'm like a paramedic that's trying to stay there and hold somebody's hand through an emergency where you're in the hospital, you're there, you're in the emergency room, and you've been handed off to the next level of care. The next level of care is not me. I'm not the next level of care for everybody. Not in paramedic land, not in energy land, not in anywhere land, because I'm the next level of care for me always. And that's the way that's always going to be. Even if I can provide something for someone, that needs to be a short-term engagement, not a short-term relationship necessarily. But if I'm always having to reach into somebody else's life and help them, or them help me, we have got a codependent relationship that is toxic and busted, and it's a low vibe frequency that absolutely just doesn't work. That's the old paradigm. So when I think about it in terms of the contracts and things, let's wrap around to that when people popped off and started doing the weirdest things, I could not imagine, like, how could you be so cruel? I was absolutely just, I bawled my eyeballs out for days, weeks, months, going, how could you be so cruel? How could you sell my house right out from underneath me? How could you lie in court? How could you steal money? How could you do that? Let my dog die, and take all the money. I mean, there were some just harsh, horrible things. And one of my family members tried to put me away, and say, well, I'm having a seizure and need some help, that you're not understanding the severity of this illness. Go to the hospital. And this person wants to, well, just put her into a nursing home. Like, what? As soon as I came to, I was like, yeah, I gotta go home, and I don't ever want to see you again. And I never did. That was the end of that, because this turns into the severity of those contract things where I'm here to just paramedic this. If you don't want my help, if you refuse to call as paramedic, my ass would be out the door. And we get that cleared up right off the jump, that do you want to go to the hospital? That's one of the first questions you ask. You don't sit around and do a whole scene survey, do some intervention, help somebody, and then ask them if they want to go to the hospital. If that, because you end up wasting time and resources and never get payment, for that. Truly, you don't. You'll lose every supply you have and be wasting time being able to help somebody else that's in a true crisis emergency and needs to go to the hospital and would voluntarily go without any issue and will die if they don't. So, when I'm dealing with a family or a situation, I mean, as I said, for me personally, it was my family. When it was clear to me that these people don't want help, they're tied into old contracts where there are vendettas and vengeances and all kinds of dark energies working with dark themes that have to do with geographical areas and absolute themes of slavery and a lot of sexual distortion and abuse and absolute violation on many levels. But it's related to huge historical, geographical, and huge themes that break down to that particular family unit. And I don't mean specifically by name, just that I've got some dirty, dark, whatever to the name specifically. I mean that whole cluster of however many of those families, blood families, are in that cluster. There's a whole group of them. However, what ended up happening was understanding that you have dark energy associated with this family specifically. He's trying to sneak back over here. That are associated with very dark art stuff, and some of those ancestors that are attached very much to my blood lineage don't want to do that anymore. And we've had visitation. I've had some chats, some astral chats with them, that we don't want to do that anymore. We wish to be working in the light, we wish to be working in the right, and we wish to be moving this in a different way. And that is part of why I personally am here and was brought into that situation the way that I was, is that we're likely to have some resistance and some trouble with this, and we definitely need to get everybody on board with the bullshit is over, that we're not doing this anymore. Your family's not going to be allowed to do this anymore. Your timeline and your whole cluster, your energy cluster and your blood cluster of however many, families this is that's connected to this genealogically or energetically, you're not going to be able to do this anymore. And so understanding that part of the reason why people got so hateful and vengeful and so depersonalized on both sides, because remember, I'm a paramedic, man. I don't, pine for you when I'm done, and I would expect you aren't pining for me either when we're done. You might say thank you, I'm sure grateful that you were here, whatever, or you wouldn't, but there isn't a personal relationship, and it can be easily dispatched and detached. You know, there isn't a long-term relationship there, and it's easy to walk away. I don't fall in love with everybody that I help out, you know, in EMS, right? And they don't fall in love with me. So it made sense that that's why it's so easy. I don't have to let the guilt and the shame get a hold of me, no matter what the mouths are saying, no matter what the names are saying, no matter what the roles are screeching and screaming. It doesn't matter, because this is, I'm too easy to be able to detach from it. And no, I'm not, you know, so depersonalized or so dehumanized that I don't have a heart, or that I don't care, or that I've got no compassion. I got compassion all day long. It's just, that's not my situation. I have compassion for someone on a scene that, man, I'm helping you with your heart attack situation, and I have great compassion for that, and I will treat you kindly and treat you well and treat you to the highest degree of my paramedic and skill that I have, along with my team, my whole entire team and me, not just me. And then I leave and take my compassion to the next person or the next situation. And so energetically, that is why it was so easy to just say, oh, that, you know, cord cutting situation and all that, it wasn't necessary. It was implied that, yeah, there aren't any cords. The only ones that I had to cut were the cords that were being, the tendrils that were constantly being tried to, you know, shove my way with, I can't believe you did this, or you should do that, and, you know, the shoulds. And I don't let anybody should on me anymore, because I should on a lot of other people, and I should on myself, and it should have killed me, but it didn't. So the fact that it didn't, I got other work to do. And when I started meeting ancestors in places where I shouldn't have known who they were, I did. I found ancestors on both sides of the warring factions, that ancestors who were looking to change what they were doing in the ethers or whatever, wherever they were doing their business, and others that were already doing what was very righteous and holy and walking in their path wherever they were, skinless, right? Well, I came across those situations, and I also came across ancestors and entities that were part of my energetic bloodline, energetic ancestry, energetic genealogy, that had nothing to do with my family of origin here on Earth. How's that for a mind blower? I met a brother, and I met all kinds of ancestors associated with my blood grandfather that had nothing to do with the family of origin for either one of us. It was really bizarre, and I hope I didn't lose you there, because it's a very bizarre concept. It took me a couple of days to kind of digest that and go, are you sure? Am I hearing this correct? I mean, I knew I heard it. I knew what I heard. I just couldn't quite wrap my mind around, are you sure? Like, am I catching this correctly? And the reason that it was tripping me up was, why couldn't it be that way, and why wouldn't it be that way? That just because people have bodies doesn't mean that they are necessarily tied in the most important way, which is energetically. And my star family, or my star frequency, my home frequency, etc., it may not resonate the same way, and won't necessarily, with my family of origin. And in my case, it did not. It absolutely did not. And that's why the people who come in, the scapegoats, often, not every single one of them, you know, probably, I'm going to guess, I don't know. I don't have the stats on that one. I'm not sure we can get good stats on this information, but the people that are definitely understanding themselves to be designated as generational curse breakers, or people there to absolutely shake up and break up the paradigm of their family, etc., and then run through all kinds of issues with being absolutely targeted with the most cruel and unusual punishment when they wake up and figure out what their role is. The blood family members may not fully understand that they're being run by ancestors that are working on the dark side. They may be puppeted from afar and have no idea why they're acting the way that they're acting, or may not care, or may be so much enjoying their power trip and their ego ride that they don't even question it, or they're so angry that they feel quite justified. I mean, I heard the word justified a couple of times and went, okay, that's not a word I use, but because if I gotta justify some shit, I'm broken and I'm wrong, in my opinion, if I have to justify something. But they may not understand, and I don't know about my own personal situation. I'm not waging one way or the other. I'm just putting it into the broad context that it's quite possible they're being outmoded, and there's actual spiritual warfare happening over their heads, and they have no idea that you're being used as a pawn by energy that's overtaking you, that's very dark and wants to be doing this for its own benefit in your own bloodline, as well as anybody else in the, you know, free energy that's floating around that wants to be able to use someone in that negative space and in that negative frequency. But specifically, it could be too that there are ancestors there that are willing, because they're family, blood family, and energetic, there's that too, but I don't know about that. I'm not giving anybody else's energetic family information. I'm not giving any of that stuff because that's a boundary thing. But absolute ancestors related to my blood family of origin spoke to me a great deal and told me, we are trying to help. This is a war going on here that we'd rather not be fighting. However, since we're here, let's go ahead and just finish this. And we can't finish it by, you know, insisting, not as human beings and not as energetic beings. We're not allowed to interfere and push someone around and make them do something. That's the old paradigm, and that's the old bullshit, and that's why all the black magic and all that crap does not work anymore. It used to, however, we're in a new paradigm, and nah, you can't get away with that anymore, and everybody's just as naked as a jaybird, man. You know, the veil, if it's still around, I don't sense it. I don't sense the veil anymore. 3113 just passed. That people are really naked and raw and showing up, being what they are, and so they're highly susceptible. And it became very clear to me when I talked to my ancestors that we have this, you know, these battles going on because we need to protect those that are here to do light work, very specific light work, to empower the grid and to empower other light workers to wake up, because we have an earth that's changing, and we want to get as many people switched over and converted as we can. However, as a paramedic, here's where it stands, is that if I'm on an MCI, a multi-casualty incident, man, I have to triage, and somebody who is trying to beat my ass, they don't need me. You are least on the list. You're just fine. You can be screaming and screeching and carrying on. I can't breathe. You're fine. You're not my work. You are a black tag body bag as far as I'm concerned, and you can be wearing your skin and healthy as can be out here in 3D. However, if energetically there's no desire to change, to evolve, to grow, to do something different, or to know what the real truth is, if we're still running that old agenda, man, that's a waste of my resource. That's somebody who doesn't want to go to the hospital. That's someone who's asking me to help them through their breathing emergency, to help them through their anxiety attack, to help them through their heart attack. You know, he didn't, real wily. That's asking me to help them through their emergency and use up all my supplies. And now I got light workers who are actually green tags that need more help and can use the help and utilize what I'm giving to them, because I'm not going to stay there and be, you know, doing CPR endlessly and blowing breath into someone endlessly. That's a short-term solution that has long-term gain in energy, if you understand it that way. That when I'm providing that space for someone to know and understand a truth about themselves or us together, I'm learning a truth about myself too. Whatever, wherever, however it's happening, as truth is happening, then that's a breath of courage. That's a CPR moment. That's a cardiac intervention. You know, that's something that emergently can help that situation and get that person up and running again. And someone who's refusing that, you know, intervention, even if they're not physically dying, I mean, this is all very metaphysical, that if you're energetically dying and reaching out and still trying to send out all the, you know, weird shit in the ethers and just dark stuff and calling upon ancestors that are converting, you're going to find yourself in a lot of trouble. You know, these people are finding themselves quite in a lot of trouble. And I don't just mean me specifically in my story. I mean energetically. Whenever I scan the energetic land, you know, whenever I get a picture of that stuff, like, ew, that's happening all over the world, where we have ancestors that aren't looking to play dark arts terrible anymore. They're really not. They're looking to do their business elsewhere in a different way and head towards the light, because that's where it's all headed anyway. The earth is shifting, and yet what's understood is that it's cosmically happening, that it's time for that to happen. However, moving to a higher loving frequency is absolutely where this is. It's not just a matter that, you know, Schumann resonance, that the resonance of earth is just simply rising, is the consciousness is rising and the cosmos is expanding, and the God frequency is the level of where humanity is eventually going to be arriving. However, that doesn't just stop with Earth. There are other planets, other energies, other sources, other dimensions, everything. You do not touch one thing because of quantum entanglement. You do not touch one thing without it affecting everything else in some way or another through the space-time continuum. And so that's why it's critically important. No, it looks terrible that I'm shoving him around. He's got to be very careful because he got into some trouble before I started this video with nearly jamming me into the corner and running us off the road with that mess. So I need a better system than this, clearly, but that's not my priority at the moment. And it's gotten me distracted. It's too easy to get very distracted and taken away from our work. And that's basically the bottom line. I don't remember what I was going to say, but I do want to leave it with that it's very crucial that understanding how it ripples into space and time when we start working with the intention of correcting our boo-boos, correcting our errors, and, you know, getting that karmic baggage taken care of. There's a point at which, you know, if we don't take care of karma quickly and cleanly with the people that we've wronged, and I'm not talking about just the whole generational crap, I'm talking about one-on-one. When we don't do that and we just keep piling and piling and piling, it goes into karmic debt that's no longer, you're no longer accountable to me, dude. You're not accountable to me personally. You're accountable to the cosmos and God. You know, that's the cosmic collections that it's moved into, and I don't have anything to do with that. And so raging at someone because the perception is that me as my person who already has zero contact with your family other than, you know, I was just there to do my job and then I cleared the scene, that's all. Raging at the paramedic who didn't save, you know, the family member, or didn't stick around and help you clean the house, or, you know, didn't, I don't know, do whatever. Raging or being mad that you got a bill from the ambulance company, you know, and get it very personalized and vendetta-ish and, you know, just vengeance and cruel and all that, and taking it real personal, doing that kind of stuff and continuing to collect that debt. You no longer owe me. You no longer owe the paramedic. You know, you no longer owe that person or that individual. You owe a much greater collection agency than me personally. So then people don't understand. You're twisting yourself into the ground even further and faster and harder with even more severe penalties because you're not catching a hold that this isn't about me and you personally anymore. This stepped off somewhere where continuing to try to punish in my direction is not doing anything to me except letting me know where that is. And it does make me a better warrior when I play along with it, or when I have to play along with it. I don't play along with it if I don't have to. I move that stuff off and just, nah, take that out. And sometimes it's necessary to move it a different direction and play with it differently. And you know, that's just done, you know, very differently every time that it shows up, but it's done. When it's showing up, it's dealt with, period. However, when it has to be that old in some way, it is. And that goes up into the cosmic collections of you're trying to start war with stuff that you don't have all the assets you thought you did, and you're being used as a pawn, and you know, it's all breaking down. And can you not see this? And when the human being is so consumed with their rage, their own shame and their guilt and their trauma, and the way that they're trauma bonding with everything in their world, they're just consumed by it. They're not necessarily picking up the energy, or even if they're really skilled in that or used to be skilled in it, they're going to lose their gifts. If they had them, they'll continue to lose their gifts because they're abusing their gifts. You get your credit card taken away, it gets cut right in half, you know, and you get put on house arrest eventually for credit fraud, or something. I mean, if you think about it metaphysically, take it in any direction you can understand it, just try to get the understanding that you will lose the gifts, and then continuing to try to fraudulently obtain things by, you know, throwing, you know, some weird stuff at a particular person, a family member, a boss, or whatever your personal situation is. It absolutely, the paradigm has changed. We're no longer playing by the old rules, and if you don't understand the rules of engagement before you declare war, aw shit, you know, it's not the time to be blind and dumb. You know, it was never a good time in the past. However, we're beyond the threshold where there's much tolerance for it anymore. Not me say, look around, you know, and whenever visions come to me, I know, it's not me say, I didn't create any of that. I didn't do any of that. I simply dealt with what I had to deal with when it came my way. However, I can see very well, I can hear, and I can smell, and I can feel it, and I know what I'm being told. And when the point of contact no longer was there, that there was the influence, if that's crazy, that's just stupid, that's just then it got clearer and clearer and clearer that, all right, it sounds crazy as hell. However, I bet you if I ever went back in my actual genealogy, I could find some family members that I've met that have been dead for a long time. And it's kind of crazy and creepy. However, I know it's what's true. And if it keeps me from, you know, doing weird shit to other people, then that's what I brought on at a minimum. That, you know, okay, it can sound stupid and I could be technically wrong. We have no way to, you know, prove or disprove. Then, you know, I'm going to go with it. That if it keeps me from doing hateful stuff and, you know, killing you or, you know, doing, you know, perverting your world in any way, then leave me alone to go do what I'm going to do. And if it's absolutely helping me to be a better person who's reaching into the cosmos and reaching into me and looking to, you know, take care of that disparity of heaven and earth thing where I'm way earthbound in matrix, if it's helping me to close that gap and get closer to the Christos consciousness, the Christed consciousness, the Jesus Christ consciousness, the God frequency, the healing energy, divine energy, all of those sweet and beautiful things, I'm on that crazy road, man. This road is just, it's hard and so lucky. Let me get through this. If it's keeping me in that realm of being able to stay connected to that, then it actually, despite the fact that, you know, I'm sure people would say, you're not trying to help me, you hate me, or whatever, you know, I've heard it all on scenes and in family situations and in friend situations, you know, you're not trying to help me. That, okay, you don't believe I'm trying to help you, but trust me, anybody who's looking to improve their vibration and their frequency and stay more in that loving presence, they are indeed helping. And if they're doing things to directly assist a situation, it is helping. Sometimes it's better to slap a hand than to hold it, and that's actually helping. And so it does in fact free up those people that we've maybe separated from, that we've cut comms with, and that we moved away from, even though, you know, they're these important people that we should be tied to till we die or they die, whoever goes first. Even though we've technically physically separated, we're still able to do our work if we can get past the guilt and the shame and understand that better. And that's just what worked for me, was that, thank God my team explained it to me. Thank you so much, because there was so much guilt about it. And then when it became clear to me that this is what's going on here, this is how this works, is that it's actually far more helpful for you to do the work from afar. And when that contract closes out, you know, as a human, it closes out as a human, and then it closes out energetically whenever that happens. And that can be two separate time frames and two separate things, because one's a contract related mostly to the Akashic records and just understanding someone's earth history, and the other is related to cosmic libraries that have nothing to do with that. You know, my family history as a paramedic has nothing to do with your family history. We're not sitting down and having, you know, Thanksgiving dinner, and there shouldn't be any inappropriate blurring of those lines. But when we actually get born into a family and don't understand that, you know, kind of separation that's necessary, we can get stuck being an energetic paramedic who's being brought into a family feud, you know, at Christmas time, and, you know, why aren't you doing this? And then 3 years later, still getting, you know, stalked by the family. So, you know, it's a very weird sounding situation, but I hope it's made sense. And I've come back over here to kind of creepy Canyon City, Colorado, which I actually love this area. The area is beautiful. It's just, when it's bringing up the creepy energy of some very harsh mining and some very harsh stuff that's happened specifically in this area, that they still are generations later and for generations to come going to be trying to recover from this stuff here. When it's bringing that up in me, or I've been seeing it and I'm told to come here, it's to be able to marry that heaven and earth understanding with these beautiful mountains. They're gorgeous. I mean, this area is beautiful. And to be able to marry that up and understand that earth energy has the ability to regenerate itself and heal itself. So don't worry too much about that mining and all the creepy stuff that happened there, Kate, because I feel bad about that. Sometimes they said, nah, don't get stuck there. We have the ability to heal. It just helps us help you. Help me help you, Jerry. Help me help you. It helps us to help you, to help other people, and to keep that cycle going of bridging the gap between heaven and earth, and understanding how things can be transmuted and alchemized by understanding what's going on to begin with. If I step up on a scene and I don't understand it's a cardiac emergency, I think it's just a breathing one and I put O2 on and nothing else, or I, start doing an asthma protocol or something, and that's not what that is, or they have a chopped off left foot that's spurting arterial blood. Got to be able to understand the scene and what the intervention is that's necessary, and no matter what, at the end of that call, that's done. It's over. We're done with that particular thing. So I hope that's helped. I'm back at Redemption Trail here to do some very specific work on that very angle, and it will bring healing. Anytime I bring healing to myself, or any kind of awareness and upgrade to myself, which is revealing the light, in some place of darkness, wherever it is that I'm looking, whether it's internally in me or into some other, frequency outside of me, it's always going to raise the frequency to be able to look into that, to observe that and hold that space. It's always going to raise the vibration right there. And that is helpful for the entire collective of humanity, no matter how many people make it out of the MCI or not, because in an MCI, unfortunately, not everybody's going to make it out. They're just not, and that's kind of where we are. And that sounds really horrible. But again, I have to work through my own emotional baggage about dealing with the fact that there's aftermath of knowing that there are people that I loved very dearly and still do, and don't ever want to see anybody suffer. However, there's nothing I can do. If they don't want to go to the hospital, I can't make them go. That's called kidnapping, and it's the old paradigm and the old protocols. We no longer have those. We're not operating under any of those. And, I can't also sit on a scene wasting time. I need to be in service, someplace where I can actually be in service, rather than trying to convince someone or coax them or force them or guilt trip them or shame them or, somehow bully them into going to get help. And if a person doesn't think they need help, their left foot could be spurting arterial blood, and I gotta walk away, because that's not my job, not energetically. It's not my job, and I'd have to wait for them to fall unconscious before I could take them away and do the implied consent thing. There is no implied consent in energy. There's absolutely zero. There's none. So if people are telling me energetically, physically, whatever, on any level, they're screaming it on every level, then I have to walk away and know that they have the ability to change their mind at any time, and they have a team, and I'm not the only person that can help them. I was a designated helpee in that situation, just as if I was called to a specific call. I was the designated person, me and my team. However, there's lots more, call again when you're really ready to go, friend. And don't be making the prank calls, because you'll get that cosmic collection shit. It'll be up your butt, and you will not like that a bit, not to mention it clogs up the system, and you'll be the one that when you finally are done crying wolf, that there's actually something there eating your behind, that there isn't anybody able, because there's dispatched elsewhere, so it's a lot of stuff. It's very deep, and I'm going to go on to Redemption Trail. I didn't end up coming over here the other day. I got the message to come to Redemption Trail, look at it, see that, find the funny haha, and then go on back there to where I was going, usually go, and it was really bizarre. It's like, what is this? But I rarely ever question any of it. I just go, okay, part of the exercise is just do what we're asking you to do, because you have no idea what you're depositing right here or what's being deposited in you, and now go down there. It doesn't have to make sense as a human. My human mind does not have to agree or understand. I just need to understand, am I hearing correctly? Am I in the right thing? And as long as I'm not getting the, when I start getting confused or kind of feel that sense of, oh, I'm not sure, then that's when I stop and I check in. But if I know, okay, I just found myself pulling out, like, all right, and somebody pulled in just as I was leaving, and then I went down there wasn't anybody. So maybe that was it, that was going to change and shift the energy too much. 11:44 on my clock on the car. So there's that. And also, sorry, that maybe just the shift in the energy that was happening, maybe Redemption Trail is absolutely more beneficial today because of the shifts in consciousness and the changes that happened the other day. Don't know. I don't question any of those too far unless I really feel inspired to do that. And if it's really, really hella important, my team lets me know. And that's where I can then start asking, some more investigative questions. So take care of yourselves. I hope that's helpful. These are long and they are so intense, but they are meant to bring some sort of clarity, and I hope that's what it's done. So me and Hondo, he's absolutely looking like he's ready to get out and do some hiking. He's relaxed a little bit. He was all kinds of bothered, and resistant to come, and I just knew, no, you got to make him come. He's got work he's got to do here, and I don't know what that's about exactly, but I do know that he needed to be here. Not because because that was the message that I got was, no, please bring him along. He's part of this. So he's part of the team, and he has to play like he's part of the team, even when he feels lazy, sort of like me too. I don't always want to do what I'm being asked to do, so it's not about my human mind having much of a vote sometimes. So take care of yourselves, whatever part of the day you're in, and remember, please get within your skin and find your divine, because your divine is absolutely fine, and it will medic you every single time. It will get you out of every single emergency and can help you find the 911 to call and get some further help if that's what you need. But you have an entire team that you can call an emergency inside of you and go, help, what the hell, I need some help right now. You have that. You have to build that relationship sometimes. You can't just expect to call and get it necessarily right off the jump. However, you can build that relationship, and trust me, if you're going to trust me for any amount of this, trust me on this one, if nothing else, that relationship being built right there, that it answers you every single time. Unlike other systems that are broken, busted, and not 100%, that's 100%. You can take that right onto the bank. All right, so take care of yourselves, as I said, and remember, get within your skin, because you're divine. It's absolutely fine. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you again next time. Bye-bye, friends.